I'm here to tell you something that will shatter your brain. My intention is not to hurt you. My intention is to introduce you to yourself. Not yourself as you think yourself to be right now, might I add, but the very engine that drives your life. You see, today I want to tell you about the queen of all the virtues, humility. What I'm going to tell you will shock you. Some of the things I will say will be counterintuitive. And in most cases, they will be paradoxical. But I'm going to tell you something right now. The only way a human being truly grows and attains what Maslow calls the self-actualization is through paradoxes. Many of them will come from my mouth. But my intention is to talk to you about you, the precious you. But I'm also going to tell you that you are not different from me. The essence that drives your life is the very essence that drives mine. You don't have to believe me. Check your book on genetics. Your book will tell you that you and I, any one of you in this audience, you and I share 99.9% of common genetic material. 99.9%. If you have business of rounding, that is 100. Let's not round it up, shall we? Let us celebrate the diversity of the mere 0.1%. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, humility is the queen of all virtue, the most foundational of them all. Her twin sister is gratitude. You will listen to people tell you a variety of things in your life, and I'm here to tell you without humility, we are going nowhere. And I'm going to prove that with a simple definition of the word humility. Humility comes from Latin, humilitas, which means lowliness, groundedness, down to earth. A person is said to be humble when they're grounded. Grounded. When they're down to earth. When they're unassuming. Self-effacing. If you've read the great German psychologist and philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, he talks about this concept of Selbstüberwindung, transcending the self. But you may ask, why is this man occupying my day trying to tell me about humility? What does he have in it? Humility saved my life. And humility will save yours. Unless a person becomes humble, they're not yet alive. In that definition of humility, which means groundedness, down-to-earthness, what is the gain of humility? What does it earn a person to be humble? It gains them lots and lots and lots of things. And because I'm a professor of statistics, I will give you a statistical definition of humility. I will operate from it for the next 7 minutes. And from it, you will understand why I'm passionate about inviting you to this journey of self-discovery through the development, harnessing, and mastery of the foundational virtue of humility. Here's my definition. A humble person is a person who has a just estimate of who they are. Let me repeat. I'm giving this definition so that nobody sits here and think humility has to do with self-deprecation. No, self-deprecation is pride masquerading as humility. Self-deprecation is pride masquerading as humility. The people who self-deprecate too much, they're seeking attention in the wrong ways because they're obsessed with self-importance. I'm going to tell you something massively powerful. When you say in statistics, this is a just estimate, you typically use the word unbiased. You don't overestimate yourself, and you don't underestimate yourself. You know the just place where you are. And that's where the manifold benefits of humility from my definition come from. In statistics, we call that a minimum variance unbiased estimator. What does that mean? That you are very precise and accurate about your place in the universe. And that place, I'm going to define it now very well. If you go to Athens, you will read the massive there's this inscription in Athens that says, know yourself, and you will know all the mysteries and all the gods. Let me repeat. Know yourself, and you will know all the mysteries and all the gods. Now, when I say a humble person is that person who has an unbiased and precise estimate of himself, many benefits come from that. How do you know yourself? By self-observing your life on a regular basis. And the first benefit of humility comes right there. When you pay attention to yourself, by observing it dispassionately and honestly, something incredible starts to emerge. The 99.9% of common genetic material becomes obvious to you. You walk in the street and you realize that you are 99.9% of me. You are 99% of me. And you know, the byproduct of that is a realization that all form of love is self-love, and form of hatred is self-hatred. The first benefit of having a just, unbiased, and precise estimate of you, which is my definition of humility, is that soon enough in your community, you become a blessing to everyone. Everybody. When you come across a truly humble person, there is something eminently attractive about them, something compelling about a person who is not seeking to aggrandize themselves or self-deprecate. When somebody sits in his place and contributes because they know really exactly who they are, by dint of that observation, something incredible starts to emerge. They are no longer prey to criticism. It matters to me not if you criticize me. It matters to me not if you praise me, because I have a just estimate of me. What are you going to tell me about me that I know not? If I took the time to know who I am, there's nothing you will tell me that's untrue. Tell me something. And immediately a person who functions from that place of inner calm, of inner peace, emanates an energy in the community that is a blessing to every single one. I'm going to tell you though, the practice of harnessing humility is extremely hard. Like everything precious, it takes time to develop that ability to have a just measure of yourself. Do you know why? Because when you were born, the first time you had a name and the toys that you claimed as your own toy, from that moment, you started having an exaggerated sense of your self-importance. And we all, I can tell you this for certain, because I know you are 99.9% of me, and I'm 99% of you. I have struggled with that all my life. This is not a confession a la St. Augustine, but I tell you, I have struggled with the adjustment of recognizing, Ernest, stay in your lane. Who you are is enough. An extra PhD is not going to make me any happier. Fighting to gain this approval is not making me happy because your lane is clear. And I'm going to tell you one last thing. I will send it home for you once and for all. The 99.9% was established by genetics. But for ages and ages, seers and sages knew that all along. In many spiritual traditions, they teach something called the oneness of the human experience. If you go to Christianity, the Apostle St. Paul talks about something he calls the mystical body of Christ, of which every single member is part. And the Christ here is not obliging anyone here to become Christian or whatever. No, the mystical body of the creator of the universe. My version of it that is non-religious is that truly what is happening is that we are all branches of the same tree. Any good I do to you, I'm doing to myself. The more you sit down in self-observation and practice recognizing this with clarity, as the oracle at Delphi say, if you know yourself, you will know all the mysteries and all the gods. If you take time to observe your life, to read and understand this truth from genetics, this truth from metaphysics, joy will come over you that surpasses your understanding. Because fighting to gain approval, fighting to control others, fighting to be praised, fighting not to be criticized will cease immediately. I told you, I'm going to tell you things that will challenge you. Some, you will not agree. I'm not here for you to agree with me because I know you are 99% of me and I'm 99% of you. This experience I've been through, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, it is your experience. I have a vested interest in your happiness. I came here to speak to you, not the you that you think you are, not the you that you hide, not the ego that tries to control things. Because you know what? On the other side of anything good, there's a counterfeit. You cannot fake humility. Self-deprecation is not humility. It's the most demonic form of pride. And pride is the reason why we are not happy. Pride is a lack and poverty mentality. I suffer from pride. You suffer from pride. I don't even need to ask you. I know you do. In one form or another, we are plagued by this dangerous, deadly disease, which is recognized in some circle as the most dangerous of the 7 deadly sins. Pride. But pride is the greatest form of stupidity and ignorance. Pride is the inability to recognize that 99.9%. A prideful person thinks his achievements are his. When I first arrived in America, I heard this very weird concept of the self-made man. There is no self-made man. You can't be anything without your brother or sister. How can you be an accountant if there's no one to be an accountant for? How can you be a professor and be prideful? I'm a professor, unless there's someone to teach. That duality makes it impossible for anyone to be a self-made person. Even if you jettison my 99.9% of common genetic material, you realize you can't go anywhere unless you have your fellow man. And here is how you practice, slowly and steadily, this most liberating form of virtue. Observe your life. Observe it with interest. I challenge you. You don't yet know happiness until you know humility. And when you start to practice this virtue, how do you start? Simply. Take away the focus from yourself. Whichever way you choose to do that. I tell my students and my friends every single day, write down 10 things about somebody. 10 good things. A random person, a friend, somebody whose life challenges you. And right in front of your house, every single person that I see on the road shares with me 99.9% of common genetic material. What it means is that anything that you see, the surface, a black man, 56-year-old professor, is a surface. the core of all of us is the same. When you know that, the celebration of diversity is easier. It's more beautiful. Because in fact, you're celebrating an aspect of you. Who hates himself? Nobody does. Everybody is fighting to defend this illusory, egoic concept of who they are until they realize that concept itself doesn't exist. Because you're not truly separate from me. Therefore, I will leave you with this. When you go back home and remember my voice, which I hope you do, remember what I told you. I said something about you that is outrageous. That unless you practice a very accurate and precise estimate of who you are, and that estimate will reveal to you clearly that you are 99.9% me, and I'm 99% you. That whatever you do to yourself, you're doing it to me, and vice versa. When you realize that, stupid competition will vanish. It will cease to have any value whatsoever in your life. You realize the pettiness of it, the limitation of it, the stupidity of it. Because you know, one of the benefits of humility I'm going to leave you with is peace of mind. And I know from all the countries I've traveled, oh God, I've been to so many places, everywhere, human beings are looking for the same thing. I'm not surprised because they're 99.9% similar anyway. They're looking for the same thing. It's called bliss. That bliss comes from recognizing something transcendent. And when you're not in it, you are in pride. In pride, your life is plagued by fear. Until you realize the oneness of the human experience, your life will be plagued by fear. And someday you'll realize, as I read in the Course in Miracles, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Namaste. Thank you. Awesome.